Hello and welcome, beautiful souls. Today we're going to be discussing the Mars retrograde, which is occurring, or beginning, we should say, on December 6, 2024, when Mars stations retrograde at 6 degrees of Leo. This retrograde is going to take us into 2025, when Mars stations direct at 17 degrees of Cancer on February 23rd. So we have quite some time here working with these energies as Mars takes us on a journey through our masculine energy, through a review of how it is and where it is that we mobilize our energy, how it is that we get what we want, and how it is that we work with that masculine energy in a productive or maybe a less productive way within the world. This is always a major, major turning point for each and every single one of us, as Mars only goes retrograde every 2 years. The last Mars retrograde that we had was in 2022 in the sign of Gemini, and the one before that was in 2020. And this was a really powerful one as Mars was retrograde in his home sign of Aries. And the Mars retrograde kept us within the sign of Aries for many, many months. It was like 5 or 6 months that Mars spent in his home sign of Aries. So this really began this journey of working with this Mars energy and our masculine energy in a whole new way, as 2020 and 2021 were the major bifurcation points, the first major bifurcation points of the Earth that we had experienced since 2012. So we were experiencing and tapping into a whole new dimension of our divine masculine energy. And we've been in a refining process with this ever since we've had Chiron, who has been within the sign of Aries, and Chiron was within the sign of Aries before 2020. So I guess you could say that really began this revision period and this healing of these wounds around the masculine energy. But when Mars went retrograde back in 2020, that was a big action point within this energy. And we have had, of course, the North Node in Aries. And honestly, there's so many dates I can't remember to look them all up before I come on to do these videos. So I'll post a little thing saying on the screen here when it was that the North Node entered Aries. But it's been, the nodes are roughly 18 months, within each of the zodiac signs. And the nodes are getting ready to shift at the beginning of 2025 into Virgo and Pisces. We're going to have that North Node in Pisces and that South Node in Virgo. So we've been working with the Aries energy, the Mars energy, through that North Node energy as well. And it's really interesting to note that as this current Mars retrograde in Leo and then into Cancer begins within the sign of Leo, it is in a trine to the North Node in Aries, finishing up those last few degrees of Aries as we move and close out 2024 and move into 2025. So this Mars retrograde energy and this energy of Mars and our masculine energy in general is taking center stage in a lot of ways as we're being moved from 2024, this quantum leap year through consciousness, into 2025. And we're going to see that Aries energy continuing to be relevant as we have Neptune moving into the sign of Aries as well. Now, I'm saying Aries energy, and of course the Mars retrograde is happening in Leo, but like we said, Mars rules the sign of Aries. And Leo is also a fire sign. So there is this beautiful fiery activation. We had that Mars retrograde in Aries, its home sign, that was really activating that core kernel of our masculine energy, as it, in the sign of Aries, is very much in that ferocious, go, 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 do, accomplish, strive for. It is in its most, we could say, aggressive energy when it is in the sign of Aries. And so we worked through that. We began perfecting that energy. And then we moved into this Gemini Mars retrograde cycle, which really brought through the aspect of the mind, the intellect, and helped us to weave that together with this generalized sort of masculine energy. So working with the mind energy, which is masculine in and of itself. Air is a masculine element, as is fire. When we think about the masculine energy, we think about the energy of logic, the energy of the mind, whereas the feminine energy is the energy of emotion. So this was another aspect of our masculine energy that was being sort of reviewed and revised and sort of raised up to a higher level, to a higher vibration. Now, with this Mars retrograde within the sign of Leo and then into Cancer, we start out in that fiery masculine energy again, but an energy that is very much with Leo about the heart. So there's a reconnecting our masculine energy to its heart, reconnecting us to what is true for us within our hearts, and really just bringing us home and activating that heart chakra in a really profound way. And then as Mars moves into Cancer, we're going to be working with more of that emotional energy. There's actually a lot of feminine energies that are influencing Mars. During this particular retrograde, we're going to have an opposition to Venus during this retrograde, and I will go over the dates of these major points as we come along to them during the video. For now, we're just going to generalize and say there's an opposition to Venus in Aquarius during this retrograde. Mars is also going to be entering the sign of Cancer in a grand cross. I was going to say a T-square, but it's actually a grand cross because we have the moon involved here, which is a feminine, represents our feminine energies. So we have the moon involved. We also have Black Moon Lilith, which is another representation of feminine energy. And we can see here with the moon and the black moon, these are two different sides of the feminine. This is the rebellious, the more taboo side with Black Moon Lilith. And this is the more nurturing, more widely accepted version of the feminine, the gentle, nurturing, divine feminine with the moon energy. So Mars really receiving this interplay of energies between Black Moon Lilith, the moon, and then Pluto, who is also involved in this grand cross. And we're going to talk a lot about Mars and Pluto because this has been a big theme. Mars has been in opposition to Pluto since the 5th of November. It was actually on the 5th of November that Mars came into that exact opposition with Pluto when he was at 29 degrees of Cancer and Pluto was at 29 degrees of Capricorn. And they've remained in a loose opposition as Mars has moved through the first few degrees of Leo, Pluto now at that 0 degree of Capricorn point. So the whole beginning of this Mars retrograde here, Mars is going to be in this gentle opposition to Pluto and coming back into that exact opposition, this time when Mars hits 0 degrees of Leo. And I am going to refer to my notes for some of these dates because it's a lot to try to keep all straight in your brain here. So that exact opposition with Pluto is going to be on the 4th through the 6th, the strongest on the 6th, but it's going to be at that 0 degree point, somewhere within 0 degrees, Mars will be during those few days, the 4th through the 6th of January. And then Mars will be moving to 29 degrees of Cancer on the 7th. And that's when we're going to see that grand cross action with the moon, with Black Moon Lilith. I believe that one is the moon. Let me double check because there's actually two grand crosses going on involving a lot of these similar planets, but one actually is involving Chiron in Aries. So bringing back in that Aries energy, that other aspect of the masculine, healing that wounded masculine energy. Yes, so the first T-square is Black Moon Lilith, the moon, and Pluto, and Mars, of course. And then that second T-square on February 23rd, or Grand Cross rather, when Pluto completes his retrograde, is going to be, or Pluto, Jesus, the Mars retrograde with this Pluto action. So at the end of its retrograde, Mars is going to be in Cancer, opposing the moon in Capricorn. And then we're going to have Chiron in Aries opposing Black Moon Lilith in Libra. So that's going to be the grand cross that we're working with. A grand cross is essentially two T-squares, one pointing up, one pointing down, creating this diamond. And it is the most intense aspect you're going to find in a natal chart, besides perhaps the yod, which some call the finger of destiny or the finger of God. But this is a big one. There's a lot of tension here. There's a lot of energies competing for attention, competing for their interests. And we see, like we said, a lot of feminine energies. Black Moon Lilith can represent the wounded feminine in some senses. There are deep wounds there, particularly around feminine sexuality, around the ways that the feminine is expected to conform to society. And that's going to be especially relevant in the sign of Libra, which represents this energy of society and the standards and socializing and greasing the wheels, right? Acceptability. Libra's a very diplomatic energy. Black Moon Lilith is anything but. So there's a bit of a clashing of energy there when she enters the sign of Libra. She's going to be in Scorpio during the first grand cross that we're talking about here in opposition to the moon in Taurus. So that's what's happening when Mars first enters the sign of Cancer. We have Moon in Taurus opposing Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, where she is, her energy signature, if I had to label it, would be more of a scorpionic energy. So she is really in her power here. She is also super intense. Those scorpionic energies of lower vibrational energies of vengefulness, of that feminine aggression, of manipulation, of just that woman scorned kind of an energy. And remember, these are all internal within all of us. We all have the masculine and the feminine within us. So even if you are a masculine or you identify as masculine, you're going to have this energy within you that's playing out in some way. For those who are masculine, a lot of times this plays out with somebody who embodies more of a feminine essence coming into your life and playing out this part of yourself on the stage of your life more. But it is a reflection of an internal energy within you that is wanting to be integrated. So just keep that in mind as we're talking about these energies. So what does all this mean? Well, what this means is that our masculine energy is going through a major balancing here. Balancing with the feminine aspects of our nature. We're calling in all aspects of our being. Even when Mars has that opposition with Venus, which is actually on the 12-12 portal, interesting enough. So this is when we open up that 12-12 gateway from 12-12 to 12-21. This is the biggest bifurcation point of the year, every single year. When the earth is dilating, I guess you could say, she's going through more of her labor pains as she is beginning to birth that sixth dimension. And we talk about this a lot on here in lots of different videos. If you are new to this channel, check out the 2/3 world split video. I will link it at the end of this video. We talk about how there are two earths, essentially, two major dimensions of earth. We have the third dimension and the fifth dimension. And in the middle, they're like a vesica Pisces. And in the center, that fourth dimension is connecting the two. And as the earth is dilating or splitting, she's actually birthing out the sixth dimension, because that's what we were ascending into before the fall of Atlantis. During that time period, that was a major ascension window. And we are essentially repeating that cycle right now. So this is massive. And this is a huge, and I said labor pains, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be painful as we're experiencing it. For the earth, it is a glorious, ecstatic experience, similar to what childbirth is meant to be for the feminine. Although in this inverted reality, a lot of times that energy has been sort of flipped, right? Like everything else, we call it the upside down world. But it is meant to be a beautiful, ecstatic, almost orgasmic experience. That is what creation is in general. I had an experience of that personally when I was on an ayahuasca, or during an ayahuasca ceremony once, this energy of this orgasmic birthing, seeing how galaxies were birthed and being in that position of birthing them. And it was incredible. So it is meant to be a joyful, blissful, orgasmic experience. So that's what the earth's experiencing as we go through these bifurcation windows. What we are experiencing depends on our level of resistance and our level of attachment to the dimension that we are essentially birthing out of or splitting away from. And everybody's going to be in a different phase of that process. So it can be a very intense time, but it is a very beautiful time as well. So really interesting, I think, that we're going to have that opposition of Mars in Leo and Venus in Aquarius, Venus fresh out of her conjunction with Pluto, as any planet entering the sign of Aquarius right now is going to be going through that initiation with Pluto. As he is sitting at 0 degrees of Aquarius, Pluto is kind of the gatekeeper to the Aquarian energies right now, you could say. And he is initiating everyone into this next phase, this transit that they are going through within these Aquarian energies. He is showing some of the shadows within us. With Venus here going through this activation, this is our desire nature. This is our feminine energies. This is our creativity, our Empress energies, what we are birthing, our capacity to birth and be a portal for that birth or that change. And in Aquarius, Venus is very much wanting to be different. She's wanting to experience new and novel things. She's wanting to move beyond the past limitations and really evolve into a brand new energy here. So she is really in her power as she meets up in this opposition to Mars. And this is going to play out One of the larger themes that we're seeing during this Mars retrograde, aside from the balancing and the healing of the divine masculine and divine feminine through looking at the wounded aspects of the masculine and feminine, we're going to be working with this story and this energy here of how it is that we get what we want and how it is that or the level of self-love that we have. Remember, Leo energy is all about the heart. It's all about love. But Leo energy in its lower vibration is very much an energy that plays to the crowd. It's very much an energy that is looking for that pat on the back, looking for that hug, looking for that validation, looking for that you did a good job, buddy, kind of an energy. They want to shine. They want to be in the spotlight, but it's because they want to be seen and they want to be appreciated. So this retrograde in Mars in Leo, for the Leo aspect of this, is asking us to go deeper. It's asking us, it's saying, do you really need, if you need that outer validation, I guess we could say, what's really going on within? Can you find that validation within yourself? And there may be points during this retrograde where that outer validation goes away completely. And all we're left with is what we truly feel within ourselves. This is also going to show us, particularly when Mars comes into connection with Pluto, and perhaps even when Mars comes into connection with Venus, as Venus has recently been activated by Pluto, where those fears are going to come to the surface. That shadow side is going to come to the surface where we do lack self-love, where we realize without that outer validation, we don't really know who we are. And we realize that there is a deeper level of self-love that we are needing to cultivate here, where we feel good, we feel important, we feel like we matter, whether or not that is being reflected to us by other people. And if we have these feelings of self-doubt, this lack of self-worth and self-confidence within, we may see that playing out, people reflecting that back to us in the outer reality. So we want to be aware of this, and we want to know that it doesn't necessarily mean that that person feels that way. And this is interesting. By the time this video comes out, I will have released the Pick a Pile reading that I did. And it was looking at, it was karmic wounds that we are in a cycle of completing and releasing right now. And one of the wounds that came up had to do with this energy of projection, like where we project our wound onto somebody else and we assume we think they know how they feel about us and how they're perceiving our actions, but really it's just our own internal stuff. And so make sure you don't make that mistake with people during this retrograde. Make sure you don't assume how people feel or assume that people are judging you or shutting you out. That is your own perception. So have those conversations with people, have those heart to hearts with people. Remember, like we said, this is a heart activating and opening energy. Our hearts might get broken in order for that activation to take place. But the thing that we're going to come to realize through this retrograde is that we are the ones breaking our own hearts. And I have had this realization many times within my life. Oh, have I ever? So trust me, I understand this. When you come to a point where you realize that somebody else isn't breaking your heart, you are using them to break your own heart, or you are simply breaking your own heart through the way that you are interacting with them. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it really opens up a whole new level of self-awareness. And once we get to that level of awareness, we can work with that. We can build on that. And that's what this whole retrograde is about. It's whenever Mars goes into retrograde, we are taking a step back. We're reviewing how it is that we've gone about utilizing our masculine energy over the past 2 years. How is it that we go about getting what we want? Mars in retrograde can be very passive aggressive, so we want to watch out for this as well. We want to make sure that we are not employing those tactics, any type of emotional manipulation. And the emotional manipulation piece, I think, is only going to get stronger when Mars moves into Cancer on January 7th. Because Mars in Cancer is very emotional. We talked about this energy because Mars was, of course, just recently in the sign of Cancer. So look back to Mars's transit in Cancer, and I'll put the dates for that on the screen here as well. When I when I edit this video, so that you can realize when Mars was, especially within the degrees of Cancer, that he's going to be tracing through the retrograde, which is 29 degrees to 17 degrees. This is going to bring back up some of that energy, some of that emotional reactivity. When Mars is in Cancer, we're very protective of that which we hold near and dear. We, like we said, we tend to act based on emotion, make decisions based on emotion, allow our emotions to rule us if we're not careful. So we're going to get another look at that, a deeper look at that when Mars moves into Cancer. But with Mars and Leo here, we're already starting to work through those energies. Where is it if I'm not getting the attention that I'm looking for? How do I react to that? Are there subtle or not so subtle ways that I'm trying to manipulate that person's attention in order to get what I feel that I need? And how, now that that is being removed, can I really focus on getting what I need from me? Once we move out of this retrograde, we're going to be, so if we utilize this energy wisely, and we welcome the awarenesses and the understandings that come through, we're going to be able to apply this and come into a whole new level of like solidness within our being. This is also going to be an energy where we're going to begin to understand how it is that we may overcompensate and where it is that we may have weaknesses that we have not recognized before. And I can absolutely relate to this energy. When I was younger, I was made fun of a lot. I was bullied a lot. I was kind of the odd duckling, if you will. And as I got a little bit older into my teen years and then into my early 20s, when I was also actively using drugs, I created this entire persona for myself. And I became so invested in this persona that it took me years to unravel that and realize that it was all built on this false foundation of false confidence. And I very much overcompensated, where like, if you talk to me, you really got this sense that the ego was running the show, that I was extremely full of myself, like confident to the point of arrogance. It was that type of an energy that I exuded. And I'm sharing this because we're going to see where this energy may exist within us, where it is that we have a weakness, an insecurity, and we're overcompensating for that by putting on a really good show. This is all part of the Leo energies as well. And once we recognize that, we're going to have an opportunity to really look at that and to begin to build, to demolish the false confidence, right? We can't build a house on a shaky foundation. And to begin to solidify that foundation with real confidence based in true radical self-love and self-acceptance. That's what is being asked of us, or that is what is being offered to us throughout this retrograde. But it's going to be for many an uncomfortable process in certain parts of this journey. However, if we are willing, like we said, to do the work, if we're willing to admit to ourselves where it is that we have convinced ourselves of some aspect of what we believe about ourselves that isn't really true, and we can unravel that, we can get to the truth, we can heal that wound, which that Chiron action is going to be assisting with as well, then we can step into a brand new level of confidence that is rooted in truth and rooted in a true knowledge and belief in ourselves. All of this Aquarian energy that's going to be present here with Venus in Aquarius, with Pluto in Aquarius, making these aspects to Mars is really going to be supporting us in stepping into our authenticity. Black Moon Lilith as well. When we embrace the taboo side of our nature, when we embrace our feminine shadows, there's a whole new dimension of ourselves that we may have hidden for fear of being judged, for fear of being shamed, for fear of being ostracized from society. And you see how this ties into the Aquarian energy too, right? So when we can really embrace that, embrace more of the fullness of who we are and stand proudly in that instead of allowing that to make us feel less than, understanding that it doesn't make us less, it makes us more. Yes, there may be certain people who look down on us. There may be certain people who are a little bit scandalized, I guess you could say, but that's okay. This is the Cosmic Rebel tribe, okay? We do things differently. And by differently, I just mean differently than, I don't even want to say that because that gets into the whole authenticity spiel that we talked about the other day about how real authenticity is embracing the truth of yourself, whether it goes with the status quo or it goes against, or as completely neutral, right? It's just about the truth for you. So that's the energy here. So as a cosmic rebel, we own who we are 100%, regardless of where that does or does not fit within the spectrum of what would be considered socially acceptable, spiritually acceptable, you name it. So that's what this is all about. It's like embracing that beauty of what is you and who you are, at least this current evolution of you, and not being afraid to claim that, not being afraid to speak your truth, not being afraid to give yourself true artistic freedom when it comes to your own life. And what I mean by that is our life is our canvas. Our body is our canvas, our home, the way that we speak, the way that we interact, all of it is art. It is your individual art. This entire experience is like a painting that you are crafting. And so this is allowing each stroke of that brush to be aligned with your heart, to be aligned with your true vision. And yes, this doesn't happen overnight. It's not like we're going to come out of this Mars retrograde with all of that intact. But this is the beginning of that process. And Pluto in Aquarius for the next 19 years is going to be really assisting us with that process as well. Another interesting event that I want to bring to everybody's attention during this Mars retrograde is going to be occurring on the 16th, the 13th and to the 16th of January. Now, on the 13th of January, we have a full moon. And during this full moon, it is going to be in loose conjunction to Mars, and not super loose conjunction. This is within a few degrees. So this is where Mars is really activated by that moon and activating that moon energy. And this is a real synergy of our emotional nature. This is Mars within the sign of Cancer, really in his feels, getting a deeper understanding of his emotional wants, his emotional needs, his emotional conditioning as well. These are these belief systems. These are these traumas. These are these traumatic responses and energies reverberating through our energetic field that influence the way that we interact with people, the way that we perceive situations, and the way that we perceive ourselves. So this is a big, big energy that we are experiencing here. We are, of course, going to have the sun opposite the moon and Mars here within the sign of Capricorn. And then Mars will come into exact opposition to the sun on the 16th. So within that range, in conjunction, loose conjunction with the moon, and then moving into that exact opposition with the sun on the 16th. So this is going to be where that energy, whatever was stirred up during this full moon, is brought to a new level of illumination, perhaps a new level of like a next level of tension. But there is a really beautiful opportunity for integration here within the consciousness of whatever we learned. And I feel this occurring not just on a mental level, but much more on an emotional level, on a heart level, and on a vibrational level. So this is where we're able to clear a lot of those emotional templates. We talked about sort of like the pain or the trauma signatures within our energetic field, where we're able to clear and release those on multiple levels of being. So that's going to be a big, big energy to look out for. And then, of course, we have that final grand cross occurring with Black Moon, Lilith, Chiron, the moon, and Mars here. So more of that moon action. Like we said, Mars is going to be interacting with all of these feminine bodies so intensely during this retrograde to really heal, like we said, those wounds within the masculine and feminine. Those bring our divine feminine and our divine masculine into a more aligned and a more ascended, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, form, and allow them to work more synergistically with each other, where they're not battling against each other, where one's not looking for dominance over the other, where they are doing what the masculine and feminine energies are meant to do, what they naturally do when they're not affected by all of this human ego and all of this human conditioning and trauma, which is support each other, and the masculine holding that space for the feminine to blossom, to bloom, to create. The masculine providing that sacred container, that sacred protection, as well as allowing us to have the courage to take the action upon what the feminine is feeling, what the feminine is dreaming, what the feminine is birthing and creating. And this is going to tie directly into our manifestation capabilities. When we look at when we look at the masculine and the masculine is the action and the feminine is the attraction. And these are two very important aspects of manifesting. You have to have both. You have to be able to take the actions necessary because we live in an action-dominated world, right? We have to do things in order to get things. If we want to manifest $1 million, 99 times out of 100, the opportunity to do that is going to come into our reality. But even if it's like the easiest manifestation possible, like winning the lottery, we still have to go out and buy the ticket, right? So that's the action piece. But the attraction, the feminine energy is extremely important as well, because this is the attraction. This is the energy where we become the vibration of that which we seek. And we naturally draw it into our reality. Feminine energy, Venus energy, moon energy is magnetic. It draws to it what it desires. And then the masculine essence, the masculine energy, the Mars energy capitalizes upon that, seizes that moment. It's like the carpe diem when it comes to the manifesting energy, right? The feminine draws it in and the masculine catches it. I'm almost thinking about like a fishing analogy right now, which is kind of weird, but it's sort of like the feminine is like the bait that you put on the line. And then the masculine energy is the drawing in once you catch the fish, right? So this is going to really help maximize our abilities to manifest as well and assist us in stepping into this energy of creators, which is really what the third dimension, in my opinion, like the original blueprint for the third dimension and for these lower dimensions of consciousness is all about. It's about learning how to be a conscious creator in the densest reality that exists. When we have the most working against us in a sense, but it's really working for us because there is a real art to manifesting and creating on this plane of existence. And it involves or necessitates the mastering of all of the different planes within this existence. This is the physical plane, the mental plane, the emotional plane. We have to master all of these to be able to tap into that quantum plane of existence where all possibility exists, and to draw that into our reality through the interaction of the physical, the mental, and the emotional planes. And that's a whole different video to get into, but what we're going to say is that this is a key step forward in that process. Right? We've got the physical with the Mars energy as well as the mental here. And we have the emotional with all of these different feminine energies that we're working with as well. So really beautiful, really exciting stuff. Let me know what you are most excited about with this Mars retrograde in the comments below. And I look forward to continuing to explore this energy with all of you, to explore more of these significant points along the way as they come into focus here. We are going to have around the next full moon on December 15th, when Mercury stations direct, a grand fire trine, which is going to be looser throughout mid-December. And it's going to be at its tightest when we have that full moon and Mercury stations direct in Sagittarius. So this is going to be between Mercury in Sagittarius, Mars in Leo, and that North Node in Aries. And this is going to be a real window of inspiration for us, a real window of activation, moving us toward our life purpose, giving us those new insights, those new perceptions that we've gained through the Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. And there's a whole different video on that. If you have not yet checked it out, I'll also link that at the end of this video. You'll be able to click on them. They'll come up at the very end of the video on the screen. So you'll be able to click on that or the other one that I referenced, the 2/3 world split, I believe it was. So check those out. But yeah, we've got that inspiration from Mercury. We've got that North Node energy leading us toward the fulfillment, the way that we are collectively working towards being able to fulfill our individual and collective missions. Because we have individual soul missions, we also have a collective soul mission, and that collective soul mission is ascension right now. And so that courage, that confidence, that ability to be that self-starter, to be that leader. This Mars retrograde in general is very much also about that energy of how do you lead? Everybody watching this channel is a natural leader. You are the way showers. You are the ones who are here to pave the way for the future generations who are going to awaken and step into this ascension process. We are the guiding lights. And so how do you lead? Do you lead with integrity? Do you call in that Aquarian energy, because the Leo Aquarius axis is the axis of leadership? Do you call in that Aquarian energy as well? That energy that is more democratic, that thinks about the whole, that is humanitarian. And how do you merge that with that sovereign Leo energy? How do you become a leader that stands in integrity, a leader that leads from the heart? And this is not just the leader of people. How do we lead ourselves in our own reality? In the creation of our own reality? Do we lead ourselves with the heart? And where has the wounds that have obscured the energy of the heart? Because remember, the heart is always whole. The heart is always perfect. The heart is the center of our energy system, all right? It creates the most powerful vibrational frequencies. The amount of energy generated by the heart is unheard of. The heart is the first organ that the fetus develops as it is growing within the womb, all right? It is, as we always say on here, the portal to the fifth dimension. So do we lead from the heart in our own lives? And as we lead from the heart in our own lives, that's how we naturally lead others. It's through that example. So we're getting a better look at the kind of example that we are setting through our actions, and how it is that we can bring those more into alignment with the heart and the higher will if we are being led more by the ego will. And we talked about this in the Pluto and Aquarius video, so I'm also going to link that for you guys. We went through the whole Mars-Pluto cycle, and the Mars-Pluto cycle that we're in right now, and that we got another key point in that journey on November 5th when we had that opposition at 29 degrees of Cancer for Mars and 29 degrees of Capricorn for Pluto. And we're still moving through that energy as they are, like we said, in an opposition, looser and then tighter and then looser again, as Mars is in this beginning period of its retrograde within the month of December. So this we described in that video as sort of the battle of wills between the higher will, the soul's will, represented by Pluto, and the ego will, represented by Mars. So we're getting an opportunity to really merge on a deeper level with our higher will and see where our ego will has perhaps been leading us astray. Get more aligned with our heart, and our heart is always aligned with our soul's will. Our heart is always aligned with love, that beautiful frequency of unconditional love and surrender. But remember, surrender does not mean giving up. Surrender just means we understand that when we resist, when we fight against something, we only strengthen that energy. So the only true victory is in releasing that resistance. I love you all infinitely. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button, drop a comment down below and let me know. And do not forget to subscribe and click the bell with the little squigglies so that you get more notifications on this channel. For anyone finding this video for the first time, we not only talk about astrology, we also read a lot of tarot. If that's not something that you're into, then you may not be into this channel. I really have set a powerful intention with Spirit to have everybody, only those who are truly aligned with the energies of this channel and everything we do on here, to be part of this tribe. So when I see people unsubscribing, I don't look at it as a bad thing. I look at it as those are people who are not aligned with this message. If you are aligned with this energy, if you are aligned with this message, then you are aligned with this tribe and all the beautiful ways that we interpret and understand these energies, our own individual evolution, as well as the collective evolution and ascension. So with all that said, there's also links in the description box below to my website if you want to work one-on-one with me. Also, if you want to join my mailing list, I send out updates and different energetic things. I have a couple free guided meditations. One is to clear your energy system and activate your soul song. The other one is to, what is it that I have right now? To come into deeper alignment with your higher self. So go ahead and check those out as well if you like. And if you are interested in bi-monthly or bi-weekly live calls where we do guided meditations and we all connect in our energy, there is a Patreon that you can join. If you want to simply support the channel, you can join that as well. There will be a more involved membership coming in the future. I've been working through my own stuff and many different layers of things in preparation to launch that. So it's going to happen in its own perfect divine timing. It is coming. We trust in Spirit to bring everything through when it is meant to. There's every time we embark on a new chapter of our lives and we level up our energy and the way that we show up and we are of service, we're asked to do some more work. That's how it works. That's like the thing that we want is the carrot that gets dangled by spirit. And then we got to do the shadow work and we got to do the healing to get there. So that's what I'm in the process of doing right now. I look forward to continuing to share my journey with you as you all share your journey with me. We are on this journey together. We are walking each other home, as I believe it was Ram Dass likes to say. All right. Talk to you soon.